we all doing? Sarah here. Whew. Did you all have a spooky weekend? Samhain and Halloween, and I guess some bonfire parties as well. Time of death. Burning of the bonfire, burning of Guy Fawkes. Halloween and Samhain, celebrating those days of the dead. Had a bit of a strange time myself, really. On Thursday night, Mum took a tumble. She got up out of bed and I don't know what happened, but she fell over basically and banged her head on the wall, and this was about midnight. Luckily I heard her, got up. There was a huge amount of blood. It was something like a Halloween horror story. Blood everywhere, pouring out of her head. Rang the ambulance. Anyway, they said that the ambulance arrival time could be anywhere between 4 and 7 hours. They assessed the situation and felt it wasn't an emergency because Mum was conscious. Anyway, hours went by. I rang them again to say that I couldn't stem the flow of blood and that I'd gone through like 4 towels by this time. And so they said, yeah, well, we are busy. And about an hour or so later, a paramedic rang, did a video call, saw the situation and upgraded us. And anyway, it turned out it was 8 hours before the ambulance arrived. So it gave me and Mum quite a long time sitting on the floor, thinking about what was happening. And it really, I had a lot of time to think about, is this it? Is Mum going to bleed out here on the floor? And I know that head injuries produce an awful lot of blood that doesn't necessarily, you're not necessarily in danger of bleeding out from the head, but there could be concussion or what have you. Anyway, as it turns out, I had a lot of time to sit and think about, okay, so there's nothing I can do, it's out of my hands. I've told, the ambulance, the 999 ambulance service, the situation, and I can't do anything about it. There was no way that I could lift Mum, or she wouldn't even allow me to touch her. It was all I could do to put a towel on her head or padding. So I couldn't have got her down the stairs and into the car to take her to A&E, which is an hour's drive away. So I thought, well, we just sit it out and wait and see what happens. And so a lot went through my head in that time about death and dying and what that actually means, and why are we in the West so far removed from death. It's like it doesn't happen, it's whisked away from us. Most people no longer keep a body in the house to celebrate their life, to wash them, to maybe wrap them in a shroud for family to come around and visit. That generally doesn't happen anymore. Undertakers are called and the body is whisked away in a plastic bag, and that's probably the last most people see of it. So it's a very removed situation where you're not feeling really very much part of it. And I do believe that that's why people fear death so much in the West now. There's a huge amount of fear surrounding death. And I have to say, on that night, I wasn't frightened. I wasn't frightened for Mum, and I wasn't frightened for myself, because it seemed that, it was completely out of my hands, and what will be, will be. But I did also think a lot about, okay, well, if she does die, now what do I do? And I was thinking, well, I'm going to keep her at home, actually. I'm going to keep her in the house and do my own ceremonies, if you like, you know, the washing and maybe buying a beautiful shroud and wrapping her up in that, and you know, laying flowers with her and maybe some photographs or something. And it also made me think about, you know, well, what's after that, after I've done that, because Mum had never really expressed any wishes as far as burial goes. So I'm not actually quite sure what she wants, and now she's not really in a position to tell me. You know, we do have family graves in a church not far from here. Does she want to be cremated? Does she want to be buried? Does she want to be buried in a green burial site? So all that kind of thing was going through my mind, and it was very calming, if you like. I wasn't panicking about it at all. I wasn't thinking, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I kind of decided that yes, I'd keep her at home. Yes, I would not have a coffin, that I would find a beautiful shroud for her to be wrapped in, put on a bier possibly. And then I hadn't quite decided whether I would have her cremated or buried in a green burial site. So it gave me a lot of time to think about what I might do, and a lot of time to think about how we just don't, I don't know whether celebrate is the right word, well, certainly celebrate in my mother's case, you know, when she finally drops off her perch. You know, she's been on this planet for 95 years plus and has had a pretty good and fulfilled life, I believe. So I don't think it's a sad, or it will, you know, sad at losing somebody, but not sad because she's had a good life, and you know, what more can we expect? We're not going to live forever. And it kind of got me thinking about, you know, my brother died at age 35 in a car accident, which was a real shock to everybody. And although it was desperately traumatic, I also kind of accepted it. I didn't, you know, it was somebody else's fault. I didn't hold that grudge against the other person who's driving too fast. I just felt, I don't know, maybe not fate, not destiny, but, you know, accepting that our lives are fragile, and if we don't look after them, you know, we can be taken at the drop of a hat. You know, another friend has a brain tumour, and you know, she's very young, and I just think, oh yes, desperately sad, but this is life, isn't it? We must, you know, live every day as if it's our last, and accept what life brings us. And we're animals at the end of the day, you know, we're like the sheep and the cows that eat the grass, have no idea that they're going to market next week. And so they don't worry about it. And I feel, you know, that's how we should live our lives too, is that not to be caught up in the fear of dying. Somebody else also said to me that, who's a Catholic, that he was frightened of dying because he didn't want to go to purgatory. So I rather flippantly said, well, change your religion then, unbecome a Catholic, because nobody else is worried about going to purgatory. And maybe you don't have to go if you're not a Catholic. But that was a real fear, you know, and I just think, there's more to life in so much as what we can't see, what we can't perceive, than we will ever know. And I think being fearful of dying is disconnecting us from earth, disconnecting us from nature, disconnecting us from, you know, the idea that this is how it goes. Some people live to a ripe old age. You know, my mum with dementia and not able to live on her own, living till, well, as now, 95. Her sister's 100, and almost 101. My next door neighbour is 101. And then you have people who die very young, like my brother, which, you know, you kind of don't expect, but then on the other hand, that's nature. You know, accidents happen, illnesses happen, and the more we connect with death, and maybe that is, you know, by keeping your loved ones at home for a couple of days while you honour them, you honour their life, and you honour their presence and their going, the more we become connected to the earth, to nature, and are not so frightened of what may or may not lie ahead tomorrow, what have you. So yeah, I feel it's very much in my mind at the moment because of Samhain. The leaves are all turning beautifully. Astrologically, I think there's a lot going on this week. You know, I'm not sure of the details, but something to do with Mars and Pluto is associated with death. So it's very much a week of death and dying, and to be accepted. This is where we are. We're in the west direction, which is the autumn. Winter and death is just around the corner. So enjoy these beautiful leaves. Look at this, orangey, rusty coloured leaves. It's stunning. Enjoy today. Catch you soon. Ciao for now.